Hey there, it's Matt. I'm coming to you from the lookout today, and I've got something fun planned. Since it's supposed to rain today in Knoxville, I thought I would look for mushrooms, but digitally. This is basically the method I used when I first started foraging here in Knoxville to figure out just where to begin in the first place. It can be overwhelming when you first try to start foraging, because you know there are tons of hiking trails near you, but you don't know where to start, where you have public access, where you're legally allowed to forage. But the first part is just figuring out where the mushrooms are. So that's what I'm going to show you today. This is a little game that I have invented for myself. Without further ado, I will pop us over to full screen and get us started. There we go. Alright, so what we're going to do is look for one mushroom, the Golden Chanterelle. And one quick note on that, I say one mushroom, that's not technically accurate. What we refer to in the United States as a Golden Chanterelle is a species complex that includes several different regional variations, none of which are Cantharellus siberius, or the European Golden Chanterelle. But we have kind of collectively decided, and then science has validated that with DNA sequencing, that the things we refer to in the US as Golden Chanterelles are close enough to be considered that and reliably called that. But I'm not going to show you places to find Golden Chanterelles in Knoxville. That's where I forage a lot. I know where the chanterelles live in Knoxville. But these methods are really transferable to anywhere in the country. So while there are big genetic differences and some morphological differences in the chanterelles found across the country, we have chanterelles in most places around the country, and they're a great first foraging mushroom. So I'm going to use them as my target mushroom today. But how am I going to find them if it's raining and I'm not hitting the trails? Well, I'm going to use the website AllTrails. So we've got two websites up. I've got Google up as well. I will show you how to use Google Maps as a third supplemental resource as you do this. But mainly I'm going to be on iNaturalist, as you can see on the screen right now, and AllTrails, and I'll show you how I truly did use those sites to find my first chanterelles. Again, I said we're not going to do this in Knoxville. So, what we're going to do is randomize things a bit. So, I went ahead and made this randomizer wheel with 20 cities in it. I have been to a few of them, and I even lived in one briefly. I've been to Taos, New Mexico several times. I lived in Fort Worth for a few months. My mom is from Jackson, Tennessee, so I've been there. And we vacation in Panama City Beach, Florida, just across the bay from Panama City. But I haven't foraged in any of these places, and I haven't looked at the iNaturalist page or the AllTrails page for any of these. What I'm going to do is spin this wheel, and from the moment it stops spinning, I will pop in a timer, but you're going to watch in real time as I tab over to iNaturalist and figure out what types and species of chanterelles grow in that region and the types of associations they keep. Mostly I'll be looking for just the general vicinities that they're in. If all of the nature is to the northwest of the city, then that's where I will start looking on AllTrails. That won't take me very long. Pretty quickly I will hone in on a trail or a park rather, and then pop over to AllTrails and find some trails that look promising and start scanning through the photos. So I know that my screen is a little squished here, but you'll be able to see the pictures just fine and the bigger text just fine. Without further ado, I think the best thing to do is to go ahead and spin the wheel and see what it lands on. All right, so we've got Richmond, Virginia first. So we'll go ahead and remove that from the wheel, click on over here, and we've got iNaturalist. So first thing I'm gonna do is, I could click on this little mushroom and it'll filter out and only show me fungi, but a better thing is to look for a genus. So I explained the species complex, so I don't want to just look for Golden Chanterelle. What we're going to do is look for genus Cantharellus, which is the genus that contains the chanterelles. Already you can see that's a much more manageable list. You can see Cantharellus siberius listed there. That's one of the European ones in Balani, in, I believe, Czechia. But what we're going to do is come in here, and you kind of have to scroll in a little bit so that you can find what you're looking for. And we're looking for Richmond. There it is. Great. So we've got Richmond here. It's a nice sort of circular bicycle spoke eastern city, like Nashville is. Oops. So we're going to draw a circle and then move the circle to the right place, or roughly the right place. That'll work. So what this does is shows me all of the Cantharellus mushrooms in this circle. It's got a wide range, so I can keep scrolling back and it'll go well past this past year. But really all I care about is looking at what types of chanterelles grow here. Now it's automatically going to sort your search by date. And one thing to note here is that chanterelles and other mushrooms have different seasons based on the region they're in. So here in Knoxville, chanterelles are very much a summer mushroom. They start popping up maybe the last couple days of May, and then last through June, July, and August, into September, and occasionally touch into or dip into October. In the Pacific Northwest, they have a wider range. They start fruiting a little bit earlier. They kind of go dormant during the summer, though they are still out there, just not as frequent or in as big of flushes. And then in the fall, they really kick back off, and I am seeing people post pictures of beautiful finds into January, a couple recently. If they don't get frozen, they tend to stick around pretty nicely in the cool Pacific Northwest. But this is more of what I'm looking for here, is this Golden Chanterelle look. These Cinnabarinus chanterelles are great, but they're tiny. I'm really looking for goldens. Here's a Cantharellus minor. So yeah, they've got really pretty ones. I would guess that their season's going to be similar to ours in Knoxville, and we've got the August sightings here. So let's scroll in a little bit, and you can already see that this little area down by Chesterfield has a ton of them. Chanterelles, I know, tend to grow next to rivers and lakes right on the shoreline. So I think this is going to be perfect. We've got Beaver Lake, we've got Swift Creek Lake, and a ton of sightings of chanterelles. I can go in here and click to get a better view. We've got a few things that I'm looking at here. We've got a bunch of oval-shaped leaves. I believe those are elm leaves. I don't see oak leaves. Typically you will, but that means that these Virginia chanterelles may just prefer to grow with elms, or that this one was just found under an elm. But we're not here for the iNaturalist stuff. We're going to go right into AllTrails. You can see AllTrails has this Explore. It's not going to be the first page it takes you to, but if you just click here on Explore, it'll take you to this map, and you can scroll around. And I'm going to zoom out so I can find Virginia, which is right over here. Go into Richmond, into Chesterfield. And yeah, so it didn't show this on the iNaturalist map, but this is a state park. So this is perfect. You want to know what the regulations are in your area before you go foraging, and state parks tend to have pretty well-defined regulations, even if they don't make the most sense all the time or conflict with other state parks in your own state. Those can both happen, but generally, you're gonna get the answers you want. You're gonna be able to find out whether you're allowed to forage for mushrooms or whether the land is completely protected and removing natural resources is prohibited. One of the difficulties here is that this is not really showing me all the trails. So we'll go Swift Creek Lake. It's got 11 trails. This will be better. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so this trail has a decent amount of waterfront, but also appears to dip up into the ridges behind the lake, so we'll go straight into this one. It looks pretty promising. And you'll see, oh, already we've got a mushroom here, so that's great to see. Sometimes you'll go into a trail and realize, oh wait, this is just a paved greenway, I don't want to be looking here. But if you go in and you're seeing some mushrooms and some pictures of the leaf duff and the ground and other interesting stuff that's not just, oh, a great view of the mountain 20 miles on the other side of the river, or just pictures of the lake, then you know you've got a decent trail. You also know that there are beavers on this trail. So I don't want to waste too much time explaining things here. I'm just gonna scroll pretty fast. There is a cool Lactifluous indigo, or indigo milkcap. Always a cool one to find. That one's really old, but they are pretty when they are young and fresh. They have a really vibrant blue. There's some oyster mushrooms. Great to see. I would take those home if I found them. Have a nice dinner. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Ooh, we're close. That is Cinnabarinus. So that would technically count because it is in the genus, but I'm looking for a Golden Chanterelle. This is a bolete of some sort, possibly Baurangia bicolor, or the bicolor bolete, though I'm not an expert in boletes beyond my very local region, and even those I am baffled by sometimes. But we're going to keep looking. Those pics were... there we go. Alright, so this is our first Golden Chanterelle with this method. And you can see, so we do have some oak leaves here, so that's great to see. These lobes, this lobed leaf, and then this one here, those are oak leaves. Oak trees are probably the most common tree associate for the Golden Chanterelle mushroom in the United States. At the very least, on the East Coast and inland from the East Coast, like where I live in Knoxville. So anyway, that didn't take us very long. If we wanted, we could keep scrolling around. I forgot to look at the date. July 7th. So yeah, right in the heart of when I said I find my chanterelles. Let's scroll around and see if we can get any more clues from this trail, since we know that we've got chanterelle habitat. Lots of mushrooms. Ghost pipe. This is cool. Sharp-eyed viewers may have caught that my iNaturalist profile user image, profile picture, I guess, is of some ghost pipe, or Monotropa uniflora. That's what they're called. It's hard to remember scientific names off the top of your head sometimes. There is a turtle and a dog. We're back into winter or early spring with the flowers, so we're gonna scroll a little more. Probably not gonna go through all 1,339 pictures, but I do want to get through last summer, summer before last rather, just to see what else I can find that might give me clues about what part of the trail to look for them on. Lots of beaver activity at this. I guess the nearby lake is called Beaver Lake, so that makes a lot of sense. And people hiking this trail get to see a ton of cool nature. I've seen frogs, turtles. Ooh, teeny tiny mushrooms. That's cool. I don't know the little brown mushrooms all that well, especially outside my region, so I'm not going to give you a guess as to what those are called. And I say what those are called. Sometimes I might say this is this, but I try to refer to the names of things as what we call them, because that ultimately is the most accurate way to describe it. To say something is, and then to spew out a name that humans have applied to it, is a little foolhardy. Things are independent of what we call them, and we're seeing that in mushrooms as we learn so many cool and unique things about the fungus that we share the world with. Ooh, this is Amanita, probably Stirps hemiboffa. It is a slender, false American Caesar mushroom. A bunch of adjectives that can go in the name in some various combinations. It's a nice edible that I particularly like, but it is very similar in its morphology to some toxic mushrooms, so it's not a beginner foraging mushroom. We've got some tulip poplar flowers here. These are great to look for in morel season because morels love tulip poplars. They will grow from especially recently dead tulip poplar tree roots very prolifically. We're not seeing anything else here that really shows us clues, so I will scroll back up and get us to that initial Golden Chanterelle, and that'll do it for Richmond. We know that if we go back to this trail, Forest Exploration Trail to Loop Forest Trail, then probably those chanterelles were somewhere along the waterfront here. I would start here at this bridge that starts the trail by the parking lot, and I would start going counterclockwise following this, and during the right season, during that July window, but probably all the way through June before it and August after it, I would be able to find chanterelle mushrooms here. Now, it is a state park, so we know that they're going to get a decent amount of traffic, of foot traffic. Lots of people are posting pictures of mushrooms there on AllTrails, and one thing I've learned, this is not always the case, but one thing I've learned is that when people are posting pictures of mushrooms on AllTrails, they typically don't know what mushroom it is. They just see something cool on their hike. They're not mycologists or pro foragers or anything like that, and they just think, ooh, cool, a nice orange mushroom. That smells really great, like apricots. I'm going to post a picture. A lot of mycologists and foragers will post those pictures on iNaturalist. Now, some people do both. I've found the same picture of a chanterelle as my test image on iNaturalist for what the species looks like, and then accidentally found the exact same picture in someone's AllTrails report or review. So it can happen, but typically it's just people out walking using AllTrails. So they're not specifically looking for those mushrooms. So that means that even if you're seeing a lot of pictures of them, people aren't necessarily picking them. And those, if you noticed, let me pop back to the photo. Well, that's going to take a little bit. But anyway, those chanterelles were not picked. They were still in the ground. And there was only that one photo of them. So I bet that those people let them be. But that's all to say that sometimes you do have to consider how busy is this place? So for instance, I know that there are a lot of people around the country who vacation at Great Smoky Mountains National Park. It has some cool regulations that allow for foraging there. But during morel season, there's an influx of tourists because the weather is finally getting nice, and a lot of them know that the region is famous for growing morel mushrooms, so they're out looking for them. So during morel season, I avoid the Smokies because that's where all the people go. I don't know much about Richmond at all, but this looks like a pretty remote area. And in fact, some of the trails, the lakefront trails, aren't even shown on this Google Maps profile. So it's a pretty well-visited state park, I'm sure, but I bet you don't have a ton of people who are out doing this loop forest trail on foot. Now, it's a bike and hike trail. That's worth noting too. Trails that are dual use like this, but focused on mountain biking, will often have single direction indicators, as you see here. And one thing about mountain bikers is that they don't look for mushrooms very often. And that's not to fault them at all, it's just that they're going fast. And so they're not going to see a little flash of orange under the leaf duff. They might see a big chicken of the woods on a log and stop for that to take some pictures. But also, mountain bikers don't tend to have a full foraging basket or mesh bag with them to collect mushrooms. So I think this is a great potential foraging location that we've stumbled across here, right along Swift Creek Lake. And you can see it's not too hard to get to from Richmond, even from downtown. You can just kind of pop on down 95 and then over, or out 360, and you get to Pocahontas State Park, where you can find some chanterelles. But I'm not done. Let's try it again. Let's go back to the randomizer. We took Richmond off, so this will be a new city. Let's see what we get. All right. Cool. Fort Worth, Texas. I put this on knowing that I did live there for a little while, but that otherwise it would probably be the hardest of the cities on that list. So let's do this. We're going to do the same process. I'm going to go to iNaturalist and zoom in on Fort Worth. It's also worth noting that Dallas and Fort Worth are individually in the top, sometimes 5, but definitely 10 biggest cities in the country. And so together, they are just massive. I'm trying to go like an hour from the city. I always forget that it chooses the center point where you click. So let's do this. We won't go all the way encompassing Dallas, but this big circle will give us a few places that chanterelles grow. So let's look at the species. We've got, I don't see the cinnabarinus, so it's looking like mostly golden chanterelles, which will be nice. And we've got some smaller ones there, but generally, yeah, we've got, I'll give you a close-up here. I didn't mention this in my other video, or in my other run, so I'll give you a little context here. Chanterelles are famous for having ridges instead of gills. Worth noting again, we named those things, ridges and gills. Humans did. So it gets a little messy in terms of exactly defining what is a ridge and what is a gill. But typically we consider gills to be flat, kind of blade-like protrusions on which the spores grow. And chanterelle ridges, as you can see, are kind of these folded, well, ridges. It might look like a mountain ridge leading up to the peak. They branch and diverge from one another, and faintly you can see that they're kind of wrinkled in between them and at the base. The ridges are decurrent, so that means they hit the stem and then go down the stem. They don't stop at the stem. In fact, chanterelles are kind of vase-shaped, so they don't really have a clear marker of where the stem begins and where it ends. But this is a pretty typical golden chanterelle. This will be great for us to go on. So already, if I go back to the map, I can see that the closest places to find them are going to be over here to the northwest. And that'll be good to go on. So I think we're going to go into... We could do this Fort Worth Nature Center and Reserve, but often nature centers and reserves are protected, meaning that there are regulations saying that you can't forage mushrooms there. So I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to go into this park here that's probably in city limits. So that's Marion Sampson Park. Go over to AllTrails and gonna make it reload. I'm gonna scroll over and find Texas. There we go. Come in here. There's our park that we're looking for. So this one is a little bit better example of what what AllTrails usually looks like. It'll have these black pins or gray pins that you can hover over, and if it's just one trail centered there, it'll show like this. This one with the 4, there are 4 trails here. So if I click on this, it'll have this 1 of 4, and I can scroll. So a few things to look for. You've got the title, obviously the park or region, and then this star rating is user generated, and then the number next to it is how many photos there are associated with reviews on that trail. So that can be a good indicator of what to look for. I'm gonna try again something on the waterfront. You can see the direction markers, so these are mountain biking trails, but I would guess that they also have hiking access. And I think we're going to do this one because it's a higher percentage of this trail is waterfront than if I were to go with this one with all this stuff over there. So we're going to go with this one, the Dam Drop Loop. And we've got a lot of photos, so this will either be perfect or terrible. We'll find out. Now, one nice thing is that since we are in Texas, the nature is going to be a little drier looking and maybe a little more beige. So the bright orange pop of chanterelles will probably stand out pretty well. Also, as you saw when I drew the big circle on iNaturalist around Fort Worth, there just aren't as many chanterelles around. So when people find them, they'll probably be more likely to take a picture of them and post it on a site like this. So I will probably shut up for a little bit as I scroll around. Enjoy the tunes in the meantime. And if I find anything cool in terms of mushrooms, I will point it out and then get back to my search. These pictures that show a lot of tree roots are sometimes worth looking at. The chanterelle may not always be the star of the photo, so you might see one kind of tucked in under some tree roots. This is June 3rd, so it's right in my window. I did forget to look. Let's check that. When are people finding chanterelles in Texas? So it looks like May, June, July, but then down here, October, and you see October 2018, and it jumps to May 2019. That's all I need to see right there. So they run about the same time as my chanterelles in Knoxville, which I explained are May through October. So back to the photos. Theoretically, there could be some chanterelles in there. Looks like it was a little dry on that day, or they had been picked. But that is a place you can sometimes find them hiding. You can see it is pretty dry here, so they must not be a very frequent occurrence. Large old trees like that often harbor some chanterelles at their base. Got some fall colors going on, so we're about to get back into the window here after scrolling through a winter of pictures. That's neat. Not a mushroom, but a fossilized seashell here in Fort Worth, Texas. Pretty cool find. Jack-o'-lantern. On that topic, the most common mushroom that people call a look-alike to chanterelles that is toxic is called the jack-o'-lantern mushroom. In my region, it's Omphalotus illudens is the species name or scientific name. It is bright orange, just like the color of that pumpkin, and it grows really prolifically from dead wood. Chanterelles always grow from the ground, never from a log, for instance. Now, technically, chanterelles are growing from tree roots in the ground, and sometimes dead wood in the ground, but they always come up from the ground. So if you're seeing bright orange mushrooms that have real gills, not ridges, and that are coming from wood, that's probably a jack-o'-lantern mushroom. Jack-o'-lantern mushrooms aren't gonna kill you if you eat them, but they will make you very sick and your stomach very upset, and it's not a fun time from what I've heard. I am glad that I had some good teachers, though I'll note I learned everything from YouTube and the web. I didn't hire a guide to go show me mushrooms or anything like that, so you can teach yourself and be safe. You just have to do a lot of research and a lot of reading and a lot of information parsing. But one of the things I did was early on, I tried to learn what to look for in terms of what not to pick if I am going out looking for chanterelles. This angle would be great, and you can see the same sort of oval leaves that are probably here a mix of elm and ash, as they probably were in that other photo too. Some cactus fruits there, a little cat. So we haven't seen really any mushrooms, which is problematic, but we are in Fort Worth, Texas, which, as I mentioned, I knew would be the difficult one. There's the desert rose, a cactus rose, very cool flower. I'm not sure, it may be the state flower of Texas, but at the very least it's found often in Texas, and I always like stumbling across those. Here's some winter. Gonna scan pretty quickly so it loads me the good pictures in fall and summer. We're back a few years. You can see that the resolution of the photos is getting slightly worse as phone cameras reverse age as we go back in time. It's one of the quirks of digging through the Web 2.0 user-generated content like this. But it is looking a little greener. I don't know if it's just this year or just the photos. There are a lot of things that could cause that wouldn't be an actual change in environment, but it could have been a period of a few more years that were a bit wetter. Mushrooms. Yeah, okay, very cool. Mushrooms in water, almost. They're not growing in the water, and the ones that are in the water are not doing great. They're growing from very submerged logs, so that's nice to see. Kind of does further indicate that I might be right about it being a greener period that we're in, that we kind of transferred into as we scrolled back in time. So it gives me hope that we won't have to get to 3,518 pictures, but we'll see. We could have to go to a different trail entirely, which is fine. A few more people started foraging for mushrooms during COVID also. So during that rough period, a lot of people were stuck inside and the trails were pretty empty, so there was a lot more stuff to notice, and people who did get out built some nice hobbies during that time. So let's see where we're at. Yeah, we're October 2021, so we're getting back to that time when maybe the pictures might show more cool fungi out on the trails. We'll see once we get there. Nice springtime pictures here. This is a picture of these fun, funky trees. Just checking to see if there's maybe something in the background. A lot of oak leaves on the ground there. This is an oak tree, I would assume. But you can see we're in the right region. We're in the right area. Water plants there. And we're back to winter. Search is still afoot. And you can see this is taking a while, but it's not an excruciating amount of time. I'm not zooming through any of this or fast forwarding it. It's not a huge hassle, and it's kind of neat. You get to see a lot of pictures of people's pets, which always brings a smile to my face. Close to the end of this trail, so might be on to the next one soon. What do we have? 2 more pages after this, maybe 3? on to what's surely the last page here. That's just leaves. Still sometimes worth taking a peek at those. Pictures of leaves. If you haven't heard the term shrump, it's a foraging term that is used to refer to when a mushroom pushes, we do have one more page, pushes the leaf duff and pine duff upward and creates a little mushroom bump, or shrump. So there we go, no chanterelles in the pictures on the dam drop loop, but we'll go back in here and let's try something. Let's try this one. I told you wrong that the number next to the image, the number next to the rating here, that's the number of reviews, not the number of photos, which is why that other one had 3,500 when it had like 1,800 in the other view. This trail isn't very well traveled, so this is not going to take us very long at all, but let's just see, because it is great habitat. I mentioned the paved greenway thing and kind of noping out of trails in that case. That's not necessarily the best way to find chanterelles. You can find them off the side of paved greenways. I was at the farmer's market at my booth this past week and was talking to someone, and he has chanterelles in the greenway behind his house, and he and his kids love to go pick them in the summer. So you can find them on greenways, but none there. So we'll go back and let's call an audible and go to the Nature Center. I don't know if it has regulations saying that you can't pick the mushrooms here, but we're just looking for mushrooms, so let's try it. That's where they were on iNaturalist, at least the highest concentration of them. And a lot of people are probably here looking at the nature. Like these two turtles, just having a nice time. So yeah, we're getting a lot more kind of nature-y stuff. Wildflowers, animals, varied habitat, and mushrooms. Oh, and there we go. This, I will say, is a golden chanterelle. And my hesitation is only because we don't see the underside. It is crucial if you're going to post a picture of a mushroom to somewhere like Reddit or Facebook to try to have an expert identify it for you, that you include a picture of the underside of the mushroom, because seeing things like those true versus false gills that I showed you earlier is one of the key ways to figure out what a mushroom is, one of the key identifying features. But here, just to go over it, we've got an oval-shaped ash or elm type leaf there that I can't exactly make out. A bunch of twisted tree roots, and then growing up from the ground, a bright orange fruiting body of a mushroom with a stem and a cap noticeable, and down here as well. Kind of round cap, the stem looks like it's in the center of it. Down here, I think I can faintly see those ridges, and then right in here, where this cap is torn, this fiber right there going across, you'll see online people say chanterelles pull apart like string cheese. I think that's not a great descriptor of how they feel or look, but they are a little stringy and fibrous when fresh. And so seeing that, and especially seeing the white flesh inside the yellow-orange kind of coating, that's classic chanterelle. Chanterelles are actually pure white inside once you pull them apart. They do kind of stain a little bit orange, as you can see on the edges there, but generally you'll see white flesh and orange mushroom. So I'm confident calling that a golden chanterelle. Now let's look around a little more, see what we see. A lot of mushrooms. So I was right in my theory that people are out looking for that stuff here. Here are something in the oyster realm, maybe oysterlings, pale oysterlings. Though I'm not sure the species there. Could just be Pleurotus ostriatus or oyster mushrooms. We'll go back one season again just to see what's out here, see if there's anything else we can find. This trail only has 600 something photos. So while I'm at it, let's just go through all of them real quick. But regardless, there's some split gills. Regardless, we've confirmed that on iNaturalist, we've seen that chanterelles grow in this area and in this specific nature reserve. And then we managed to find the very mushroom we were looking for. So if I were in Fort Worth, even if there were regulations against removing any specimens, this would be a great first foraging spot. Because one of the things I did, and that I recommend people do when they start foraging, is go out looking without any plans to bring anything back. The first several times I found chanterelles, I didn't take them home and eat them. In fact, the first several times I took some pictures, and then I finally brought a few home to cut open and investigate, and it took a couple more attempts of bringing them home and getting someone online to verify them and comparing them to the videos I had seen to be certain that I had golden chanterelles and that they weren't going to kill me or make me sick if I cooked them and ate them. And eventually I started cooking and eating and loving them, and the rest is history. But here we go. We've got a chanterelle in Fort Worth, Texas, in the middle of the plains, the prairie desert there in central Texas. So pretty cool, right? And that's about all there is to it. With these tools, now you can go try to find mushrooms near you. Just type in the type of mushroom you want on iNaturalist, look at the trails in the map, and then look at the pictures people upload from those trails. But again, be safe out there. Don't go eating wild foraged mushrooms just based on one YouTube video. Be sure you do your research and know for sure what mushrooms you're dealing with if you do decide to eat any. I'll probably do this again soon, so keep an eye out for it on the channel. And speaking of the channel, I'd appreciate it if you hit like and subscribe. My channel's new, so anything that can help the algorithm get this out to more people would be much appreciated. Goodbye for now. I'm sure I'll find you again here soon. I'm Matt, and this is Phaewild.